assumed you might want to check if the sound's coming through for us and stuff like that. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
what you
that
need to
is
do.
part of the process.
Yep.
Because last
Just
time I
gonna
managed to
keep
double.
making noise then.
Last time I managed to double up on my own audio, and it was not good.
Ah.
Yeah, let's just check that's. Ooh, I am very quiet.
Yeah, apparently I lied. I was gonna keep making noise and then I changed my mind. Like the villain I am.
Don't worry, the lag actually got me there when you were going, so. Let's just turn it up a bit. Kurt, can you speak for me, please?
Hello. I can. Hello. How are you? We're making cookies to start the jamboree. How's that?
That is certainly. Oh man, I've now got triple the audio coming
Right.
through my headset, and it's.
So I can whistle if you like.
You can whistle Dixie
Sounds
if you like.
Whistle while
absolutely
you work.
wonderful.
Let's put you down.
Is it the kind of delay where if I start singing, I'll just kind of like echo myself correctly?
No, thankfully, I don't have the tab playing through into the stream because otherwise, madness that way lies. Okay, let's send out tweets and stuff. Nick, you can do your usual post to Reddit about the fact we're streaming?
Ooh, yes, I will.
So are we going to be just? I realise this is a question I should probably have asked earlier, but we're going to be live. This isn't just recorded.
Yes, this is it's live and recorded. So there will be there's a live broadcast that's going out now to anyone who's
For about 3 people usually.
Yeah.
Historically more, but
we do get views on the VODs afterwards as well.
Cool.
And then there'll be an edited down version, which makes everyone sound like they're much more witty because it's slightly faster.
Kill all of that dead air.
But I really don't know if you want to make me faster.
But it's more that it chops out the silences between sentences. So it's doesn't make the words faster, but it makes you sound like you're responding that much.
That'd be great. If there's no gaps in my speech, I'll just sound like one continuous sound.
I still, if you speed Jamie up enough, he just sounds like an old dial-up modem.
I'm pretty sure that's true of most people.
Yeah. I still recall Jamie doing a podcast years ago. There used to be a Guild Ball podcast, and one of the hosts was one of the most laid-back, laconic speaking people, and so you kind of wanted to listen to him at double speed and Jamie at half speed, and the disparity was it was something to behold.
Yeah, that's Phil Bowen of Guild Ball Tonight for fame, because he's such a laid back slow speaker, so people would just naturally habitually speak to him, listen to him at like speed 1.5, except when I was there as a guest.
I mean, I should prep these announcements, but I'm bad.
The important thing is that you were okay with that.
Yeah, I made my peace with being a bad editor 12 years ago. Why can't I post? There we go. Facebook, which is there telling me, no, you will not post as Elite Cadre. Oh, but I will.
I didn't realise Facebook had such strong opinions on this subject.
Oh, it's the amount of stuff it does. Just to stop me doing things like putting posts into a holding pen on War Machine Horde's Facebook. It just
That's not great.
Yeah, it just kind of says, "Oh, these are off for moderation." It's like I've never had that before in any other account, but go on. I'm guessing it's because I had to reset up the Elite Cadre Facebook page because I decommissioned the old one, thinking, the podcast's dead. Oh, fool that I was.
Well, we've all been in that boat. I am the guy that got rid of all of my widgets and tokens, and then it's like, really need those now because I'm playing loads of War Machine again.
Yeah. Yeah. I love all the widgets and tokens. I have to admit, I went to UK Games Expo this year thinking, I'll get some, and it was because it's not very War Machine, not very war gamey. It's more role playing board games. I was like, I won't buy any of those. There aren't any.
Yeah, you can usually find something from people like, is it Cogo 2?
Cogger 201, yeah. I had someone, one of our team, the lovely Carl, has picked me up a load of the really nice ones that Broken Egg make?
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
And are all full colour acrylic and really shiny and lovely.
Yeah, very lovely.
And he told me how much money I owed him, and I nearly fell out of my chair.
I really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, excellent. Facebook's just there going, no, something went wrong. Okay. Sure. There we go. Second time looking at that posted. And then I can do intros and it will be all good.
We never doubted.
Well, I say good. Good for us.
Adequate.
Yes.
Ooh. Elite Cadre episode 105 is now live on YouTube. Look at that.
Oh, apparently...
We're doing it. We're making an episode.
Rust does not exist in the War Machine Hordes UK thing. That's interesting. Well, it'll just...
Is that me?
Yeah. I was trying to at you in the post, but I'll just put your name in because it refuses to acknowledge your existence. So...
Well, what can I say? I only play to a big room.
Right. We'll do the intro now. Hello and welcome to Elite Cadre, the War Machine podcast that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Can we just check? Alex isn't here to interrupt me this week, is he?
No, Alex isn't here to interrupt me.
Okay.
Yes, that's,
just to make sure. Thank you.
Yes, quite. I'm Mike.
I'm Kurt.
I'm Nick.
I'm Benj.
And we do have two very special guests this week. Which order? Let's go with top to bottom. First of all, it's Mr. Jamie Perkins.
Hello there. Thank you for having me on.
Yep. Pleasure for you to come and visit this ramshackle shack of podcasting. I don't know where I was going with that. Also here, we have Mr. Russ Charles.
Hello, I am also here.
Well, there we go.
Well done.
Thank you.
This does now, triple the amount of people we've had on who actually work, close with War Machine, which is kind of weird. One in the first 11 years, and then two together at once. It's like buses.
The amount of people that know what they're actually doing has sizably increased.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Don't go.
That is a hasty statement.
Yeah.
Well, we've got tournament winners here. What am I talking about? Come on.
So I think first of all, what might be good to do is to kind of, we're old hats. We've kind of been around. We all know each other. But I think for some people, they might not know you quite as well. So perhaps if we go with you first, Jamie, if you want to kind of give us an idea of your background in War Machine and what it is you doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try and keep it brief because it's long. But I've been playing War Machine for a very long time, since just at the last year of Mark One, I think it would have been. So like very much over 10 years ago. Played the entirety of the second edition of the game. Took a break during the third edition, and then came back to playing the game just ahead of the announcement of Mark IV. I was that nostalgic for my own miniatures that I went and found the person who bought my Legion Everlight army off me and bought it back, and then played with that during the start of Mark IV. That was before I knew anything to do with the fact that during my day job working at Steamforge Games that we were going to be acquiring the game. So that was a fun day. And have been so peripherally involved when it comes to the design development decision making when it comes to War Machine since that's happened. So I basically run about half of the creative team internally at Steamforge Games. My opposite half is Sherwin Matthews, who runs the other half. Run a number of projects in the teams between us, basically everything that's active that's going on. Matt Hart is the creative director that kind of oversees the work that we all do as a creative team, and he's very much directly responsible for what's going on with War Machine and working and interlinking with Privateer Press and myself and Sharon kind of advise Matt on what's going on there. That's like a really brief introduction, just kind of what we do day to day. But in terms of me playing War Machine, yes, I've always enjoyed playing the game, both casually and competitively. I've always been someone who's loves going to the events and meeting people, traveling with the sort of using it as an excuse to travel around really and go to different places, not only in the UK but around the world, playing War Machine. Meeting a lot of different people playing the game. It's been great. The game has been very good to me, I would say, over the years.
Yeah, it's certainly quite the biography over those years. Okay, thank you very much for that, Jamie. If we move on to Russ, if you can give us a kind of a quick background of yourself.
Yeah. My background with War Machine specifically goes back to the advent of Mark II. I did briefly play the game in Mark One, but it didn't catch. I didn't pick the faction that really resonated with me. Mark II came along, and I picked up the Madrak with Axa and the Spear Thrower light trolls in, sat painting them whilst watching Braveheart on the telly, and never looked back. I instantly and irreversibly fell in love with trolls, and that has been my great love for the game ever since. I think anyone who has had the misfortune to sit and play against me across the table will recognise that I am more of a painter than a tactical expert. But I played incessantly through Mark II, and then I then had a slightly different relationship with the game because I quit the day job and decided to take up sculpting miniatures as a job, and was fortunate enough to work on some models back in the day. Privateer were one of the first companies to take a punt on me, for which I will always be very grateful. And I got to do some circle pieces. I did Una the Falconer, and I did Bradicus. And I got to resculpt the Prime version of Grisel Bloodsong, which at the time was the only warcaster I didn't own for my trolls. So I got to sculpt it and then put it in my army. And I thought to myself, well, it doesn't get any better than this. Little did I know, turns out it can get better than that, because here we are now. And I'm still painting trolls.
Still painting them after having sculpted them as well. That's that is certainly a direction to go.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it is pretty awesome.
Okay, well now that we kind of got a background and kind of what it is you're doing on the day to day, let's kind of like open up the floor. So Kurt, Benj, Nick, any kind of
Well, yeah, the main question that sits on my mind is, as you guys sort of alluded to, Mark II was a big time for you guys playing War Machine as players. Now you're both in Steamforged. A lot of the senior leadership of Steamforged actually came from that same War Machine Mark II. So how does it feel personally to now be the guardians of War Machine and taking us into the future of War Machine?
Do you want to go first, or shall I go first, Jamie? How do you want to do this?
Whichever. After you, mate.
Okay. I mean, obviously, you ask anyone in the company, they're going to give you a different answer because it's a very personal subject. But like from my perspective, like it's genuinely an amazing feeling. I mean, as you say, like a lot of the I'm not going to say key players, but a lot of the early players who were there for the sort of the foundation of Steamforged as it has come to be, knew each other through playing War Machine and entering painting competitions and sharing tips with each other. And so, like, arguably, you could say that, you know, War Machine's as much part of Steamforge's kind of sort of creation myth and DNA as anything else that we've worked on. So it feels like you know, it feels like we've closed a circle that we didn't even know was open. It's brilliant. And like, speaking very like personally at leading the sculpting team, one of the joys of working on specifically a miniatures game as opposed to all of the many other products that we work on is there's a immediacy with the connection that miniatures gamers have with the models that is completely unique to miniatures gaming. So for me, you know, seeing the excitement and seeing how people respond and connect with the models is a huge part of what I get out of my job. And so, you know, there's huge amounts of opportunity for that in a game like War Machine that isn't necessarily always the case. So from my perspective,
but do you mean because wargamers paint their models more, or because
I
you
mean,
form more of a relationship playing them same models more than board games, in the sense that board games are a journey and adventure, and you might repeat it, and you might do it in different ways, and there's obviously bigger games have more of a journey, and different ways of playing it. And there's obviously a level of overlap as well with some board games that are a bit like war games. But is it the painting, do you think, or is it a different involvement in that?
It's really difficult to define. I think like the fact that miniatures gamers are often more hobby focused and more personally connected to the models plays an element. But I think that you get it feels like there's a like the almost the miniatures are kind of the point, whereas you know that's not always the case. I mean, every miniature that we work on across whatever we're doing, like we always make sure are absolutely fantastic, and I'm really proud of all of the work that we turn out. I just have found that there just seems to be an immediacy of feedback and excitement when you're working specifically on a miniatures game. When you know new models are revealed and new sculpts are revealed, there's just something unique to that, which when you're involved in designing the models, it's just a really amazing feedback loop and something that I really enjoy. So for me, it's a big part of why I'm having the time of my life right now.
I can definitely understand. Well, I understand that your last point definitely, but I can also understand what you're saying about that connection. I mean, I've got some quite big box board games, and they have some really cool miniatures and things in it. And yes, they're very cool, and I do occasionally even paint them. But I agree with you; it doesn't have that level of connection that games like War Machine and other wargaming games have. You definitely want to personalize your army more. There's definitely that level to it, isn't there? I think, yeah.
But you tend to have a faction, right? When you play War Machine, there are people out there who play many factions, but you have a connection to your faction, and that just goes deeper than in a board game where you probably don't have a particular side that you play or something. You'll play a bit of everything, and
you might have a favorite there, wouldn't you? Thinking about games like Root, you might have a favorite, but you're still not going to do much more, get more attached to it than throwing it down and playing it on you, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know the
Right.
books.
You know, if I was gonna play Twilight Imperium, I wouldn't describe myself as like, oh, I'm a virus player. You know, it's you know, it's whatever faction or factions you get dealt with that you'll pick one of and you kind of favor towards them, but you will get people in war games that go describe themselves as by their faction. Oh, I'm a Crix player, I'm a Cadre player, or even you could even go, I'm a Crix main, but I'll also play Cadre or something like that. You'll often have people describing themselves by the factions that they prefer to play with.
Absolutely. I mean, right up to, you know, like I wouldn't consider it odd to be at an event and see somebody, you know, rocking a Cadre tattoo or a Signar tattoo, and like really they've embraced the faction and embraced that's almost like become part of their identity. And I think that is a character of miniatures games that's kind of unique to this part of the hobby. And I just think it's really cool.
I'd love to return to that identity sort of stuff, especially like when you used to get faction coins and stuff like that during tournament play, and you used to, you know, go for your faction coin, and even like special cards and stuff like that during events. So that's the kind of stuff that got me, you know, sort of identifying with the faction.
I do still have somewhere, and I can't remember where at the moment, the pink Sorsha Mark II card.
Brilliant.
From ages ago, from the breast cancer one. So yeah, there's definitely something to that.
With obviously we're just naturally talking about factions, sort of the way you tie to your faction. With Mark IV currently, there are quite a few of the big hitting factions out there. There's been some news with Crix coming to the table. Do you find that there's people out there constantly asking you, when is this faction coming? When is that faction coming? Or are people actually, have you found there's some people who have actually gone, you know what, I used to be a Menoth main, but now I'm really enjoying Dusk or really enjoying Orgoth? Or
You'll get both. You know, you'll get people who've fallen in love with one of the new Mark IV factions and people who haven't found their new home as a faction yet. We'd spent quite a bit of time there just talking about how people identify with a faction. If they haven't come across one yet that fits the identity they want to adopt for the game, then they haven't picked up one of the new ones, and that's absolutely fine. But it does, that obviously does, yeah, it is a regular question. When are you going to do this one? When are we going to do new Blindwater? Are we going to do new Pharaoh? Or you know, something along those lines. It does come up quite often. I think it's exactly very very popular question. It's one where it's interesting with it because obviously when we've come in to stewardship of the game in the 4th edition of the game, and we're in a period where we're releasing brand new factions into the game, and some of them are, you know, creating new versions of previous factions like new Signar, new Cadre. Obviously, everyone wants to see their version of a Mark IV faction being done, and it dovetails a little bit into what Russ was talking about before about how there's kind of like with miniature games, there's a constant cycle of release where people are excited for the next thing, and there's a lot of focus on the next thing that's going to come down the line and change the meta or change people's army lists up and what gives people new miniatures to paint with. But and you've got to kind of balance that against that people really want to have this constant cycle of new releases. We want to keep putting new releases out there because it's great, keeps the game growing and keeps people interested, but also people are sort of want to understandably impatient with wanting to see their Mark IV faction come out. Where's mine? And it's like, yeah, that's true. It is. There's more coming. There's stuff coming. Don't worry. I understand it's frustrating, and it's just the process of miniature games. It's I don't know if necessary evil is the right way to describe it, but it's that kind of, we need this because this is how miniature games live and grow, by having this constant cycle of releases. But it also means that not everything is out yet because
you can't ever do it
because of that constant cycle.
You can't. You can ever do it. I suppose what I was going to say is you need to limit that change to an extent, though, don't you? Because if the game changes too fast, too quickly, then you get into an area where it's very difficult to keep up with the game and play the game in an enjoyable way. In my experience, if we have too much too fast, then you come to a table and the gotcha level increases, the unknown increases very, very quickly, doesn't it? So I think while we all want those things very, very quickly, we all want our shinies.
Right.
I think we need let's replace them.
Exactly, and it's a related question to that in terms of the speed of a game changing is also to do with how quickly people want to see a game errated. If there's a part of the game they're less happy with or they're not enjoying as much, then one of the first things people reach for is when's this going to get changed, when this is going to be errated. And I think one of the great decisions that Private Press made that we're continuing on with is the big January update for the game, because it gives people that thing to look forward to. There's that sort of line in the sand where, you know, where things that where things can change and people are expecting of that. And it means that people coming into the game who haven't, who don't engage with it as often can go, oh, where am I in the cycle of releases? Are we near January? Yes, it's just been January. So there's probably some changes that I can expect to be in there. Oh, we're not quite at January yet. Oh, so a lot of stuff is, it might still be how I remember it used to be. Because if you change a game too often, we used to, when we've had quite a lot of experience with developing Guild Ball and God Tier, both of those games treated very differently when it comes to how erratas are handled. And if you errata a game too often, you can very easily find that players drop off because they can't keep up with the level of changes because they have that one convention in a year where they'll play that game. Somebody maybe goes to Adepticon and goes, oh, that's where I play Guild Ball or War Machine. So if they're feeling left behind,
there's a positiveness I saw positivity to SFG taking the game over in the sense of the learning from Guild Ball. So I never played Guild Ball, but Matt talked to me a lot about Guild Ball as it starting. I saw the game happen. I saw what happened to Guild Ball, and I don't want to go down that road too far certainly not in a negative way, because I don't have a negative feeling or opinion of it. So don't worry, I'm not going to go down too far. But I see that there's some good learning that came out of it. It became very focused. I mean, obviously you and Rich, very competitive players in War Machine, and it seemed to be that it got very focused on the competitiveness, and it's a big, the world and gaming as a whole is bigger than just the small top tier competitive players. I think I totally agree with what you're saying. You need to make sure there's a relative, understandable, predictable pace of change, both erratas and new things. But the errata side of things, I joke about Big Pig, but we've all seen the WTC pictures. It's probably inevitable that something's going to happen. I loved it. I bought it before I saw the rules. I was like, I had a Pharaoh army before, sold. But at the same time, it's clearly very good and everywhere. But at the same time, we don't want to overdo that the other way either. You can't have too many changes too quickly. Or exactly as you're just saying, it puts people off, doesn't it, as well?
Knee-jerk changes as well are really bad.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of the things where we obviously alongside Privative Press get to constantly monitor what's going on there with pick rates and how much people have what the public perception is and how people are talking about the game, because that's just as important as actual statistics and the numbers behind the game is how people are feeling about a part of a game. You can have something that it's a bit of a common misconception in game development for game developers is you can have something where the game developer's defense is this is perfectly mathematically balanced, but the players go, but it feels broken. It feels overpowered, and the players are correct in that instance. The developer is wrong, and the developer needs to consider how they can make the feeling of the game feel fair. So it's a super interesting thing. So anyway, I kind of droned on a little bit there, but the point I was coming around to was that there's always one of the benefits of having the app is there's always the option to do those quick turnaround changes if we feel like we need to. Obviously, we haven't felt the need to do that thus far, but having the option there is a good healthy state for the game to be in. One periodic update the game in a January window with the option to do spot changes where necessary.
Speaking of data, you had the survey that went out quite recently. What's the sort of response been on that sort of front, and like people buying back in? Has it been quite positive, or is that
really great? And I have had a look over the survey, but I don't have the numbers to hand. But there were some really interesting statistics behind it as well, which was, I think there's one of them trying to remember now, is something along the lines of 2/3 of the players make up an answer of whether you play more commonly either at your house or at a friend's house. Something like that was 2/3 anyway, of a really large number of people that responded to the survey. A huge number of people that don't even go to gaming clubs, gaming stores, tournaments, conventions. They'll just happily play War Machine in their own homes on kitchen tables. And it's a that was a super interesting stat for us because it just confirms for such a long time for us that a statistic that we feel is true about a lot of different miniature games anyway, and has proven to be true in previous surveys for other game systems, that you kind of have this closer to almost somewhere between 60 and 80% of your player base doesn't often engage with competitive events or conventions. But they're still people you need to consider because they're people that enjoy your game and want to buy into it and spend time on it.
I think that's well documented for other systems. You're right. I think Warhammer is a really good example of that. Very much so. There are other Warhammer podcasts that talk about it and talk about that competitive scene being the pinnacle or the majority. And it's like they really are not. You're lucky for 20% in the Warhammer world. I think it's most of it's kitchen tables or living room floors. I think.
Yeah, it's how I started playing War Machine over at Mike's.
Yeah. On a dining room table that was exactly the wrong size for War Machine.
Excellent.
And when I was up in Scotland, same kind of thing. Actually, the competitive group up there, we tended to play over at each other's houses more than we played at a club, just because there wasn't the clubs at the time.
I think it really always will be kind of a foundational thing, like the ultimate intro to wargaming will always be two people who look at like a 2-player starter or a basic box or whatever and go, "Oh, that's cool. Should we give it a go?"
Well, that's exactly how I got started with War Machine, for sure.
And I think it's this is where we can bring you in here, Ross, actually, because that's that idea of the 2-player starter set is literally one of the first things we hit the ground running with, wasn't it? Because it's going to be we're going to be seeing it later in the year, but that Cadre Signar 2-player starter box that we were showing off the studio miniatures for anybody who's looking enough to be at Gen Con was literally I think the first thing we physically started working on for miniatures, wasn't it, Ross?
It absolutely was. Yeah, in fact, the weirdly, the absolute very first thing that we made for the entire project was the scenery that's in that set. The very first thing I made for Mark IV War Machine was a wall from such acorns.
You must be so proud.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's the best wall I've ever made.
Excellent.
I'm very, very happy with it. But the reason that I started with the wall, joking aside, is because this was us moving towards the HIPS manufacturing process, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is the hard plastic that comes on a sprue, available from many games manufacturers. It affords some really exciting things that you can do with it that you can't do in other materials. But it's also quite a it's a harsh taskmaster if you don't understand the unique ways that you have to work with it. So the reason I started with walls was because I needed to understand the engineering sort of parameters and how it would inform the designs. So they were like my sort of beta test or soft entry into the process, and that has been an amazing journey. Really interesting if you're a miniatures nerd, and always challenging. But I actually now have I have not in front of me, they're downstairs in my hobby room, but I have a set of the start set sprues, and they are fantastic. I couldn't be happier with them. So yeah, it's worked out really well.
It was very interesting to actually look at those sprues while Gen Con was going on, because it was like, oh, okay, this looks like an interesting assembly project, and then you get to that one sprue, it's like, ooh, plastic scenery. That's not something that War Machine's kind of really delved into before. It's just interesting to see that like it looks like that more complete experience.
Is that again harking to the idea that more people are playing less in stores, less in tournaments, and with your experience in board games, trying to tailor to that sort of market as well, going sort of forward to...
It's not so much, I wouldn't say it's so much that, as more as one of the things that we know we want to empower further about War Machine, because it's such a great game on the table, is the hobby aspect of the game. Is that promoting people, making interesting creations with their miniature kits, with conversions, etc. Empowering people to want to feel like they can paint their armies in different ways, and get people to sort of enjoy more of a complete hobby, as well as the fantastic game as it plays.
I think that's really impressive. I heard Matt talking about that, and I think it's just lovely to see, because I think there has been a level of the competitive game has been that held aloft as the most important part of War Machine, and I think the fact it's had its moments over the years, but it's been primarily driven as a clean game to have the most tactical kind of options and focus and pun aside, to actually be a manageable, tactical, choice-driven game rather than buckets of dice like some other games, which again get played in a similar way or talked about in a similar way. But I like the fact that we're heading into more of that. So obviously, I lean more in a sense towards the way Russ plays. I like painting. I paint most days. I enjoy that creativity side of the hobby. Now, I like playing as well, and I'd like to play better, but also, Jamie, I know you've talked to us before, that time you put into playing to get to a certain level is a challenge. There's a gift element to it, but there's also a time element to it, and there's limitations on that time, aren't there? it's but yeah, so I'm looking forward to more and more of a creative push, I suppose is what I'm saying.
As someone who was in it more previously in Mark II, I was all about the game, and I was more of the player than the hobbyist. But one thing that definitely pulled me more into the hobby side was hardcore, where you had that painting requirement. And I mean, I could ask the question, will we see that in the future? But I don't even know if you're going to know the answer to that, Jamie, because it's going to be very, very early for you guys and working out what the future competitive scene looks like. But I'm hoping something like that does sort of happen even on the side of whatever the main competitive element for War Machine in the future becomes.
So we certainly want to encourage people having more painted armies at events, and there's been some success with events that do already encourage fully painted. As you said, previous hardcore events, the World Team Championships at WTC has a limit if you have to attend that fully painted. So it's something that we're thinking about, is different ways to encourage for more folk to play with painted armies.
I think the world has embraced a lot of the hobby world, I should say, has embraced a lot of like new sort of things that unlock painting and
Very
make
tactical
painting.
phrasing there, Russ.
Yeah, thank you.
I know what you're saying, you know what you're saying, but yeah.
But yeah, there's
paint options, yes.
exactly that. Yeah, there's a lot of things out there now that will make painting much more achievable for a wider spread of people than it might have been back when I started painting.
Do you mean to help one's painting become more rapid, or to add increased levels of light and dark to your painting?
You might say that, and
Okay.
and it's not just it's not just about the paint. It's actually about miniatures design and the technology that's available and backs that up. And it's also about the spread of information. You know, the amount of really high quality guidance on any aspect of the hobby, but particularly painting, that you can get now via channels such as like going through the YouTube route. I think that painting has become more accessible than it's ever been, and therefore, it's the right time to aspire. It's a game that we all love for various different reasons, but no one can deny that the aspiration of having beautifully painted armies on fantastically constructed tables it is an aspiration worth having. And with the advance in 3D printing, neoprene mats in high definition, all the different speed paint products that are out there, all the different pieces of information you can get, like, that is an aspiration that I just think has become way more achievable than it ever was at any point in the hobby up to now.
I mean, I don't know if you saw any of the coverage of it, but if you have a look at some of the tables and the armies on show at the World Team Championship, they put together like 80 plus tables, full tables of full themed painted 3D terrain. For everyone in the entire room. So if you had terrain on the table, it was themed to the play mat that you were playing on. It had the 2D element of the neoprene showing, say, smoke clouds and buildings, etc., and then the 3D element that was the correct size and shape, and again color to match the play mat that you're on top. If you were on a snowboard, you had snow terrain, snow themed buildings, snow covered, snow mounds, snow hills, all that kind of stuff. And it was just a fantastic experience to play on. That combined with everyone turning up the fully painted army just made it all brilliant. It was fantastic. It was a really great way to show off the game to anybody thinking about getting into it. And it really showed off the game at its best light, honestly. It was really a pleasure of an experience to play on those kind of tables as well.
I think terrain like that adds so much more to the table than it could ever take away. If, like, you might have a fiddly hill that are models, it's tricky to get it to stand on, but you can deal with that in the moment. But a room full of tables like that is such a fantastic, memorable experience. It's adding so much. And also, the lifeblood of any game is players, and there is no greater like advert for the game you're playing than a room full of phenomenal tables that are really eye-catching and make people stop and look and ask about the game. I've seen events at Gen Con for other game systems where they've clearly put huge amounts of work into their tables, and they really do act as a recruiting booth, basically. It's fantastic.
Well, speaking of events, then, and as I mentioned before, are we going to potentially see a return with Lock and Load as like or do you have an idea for a flagship like event going forward in the future?
So, sorry, go on.
No.
So I would call that an aspirational desire right now, which is that we ran SteamCon ourselves 3 times back in the day. I know that Lock and Load obviously ran multiple times over the years as well, and Lock and Load is included in the IP acquisition for the Iron Kingdoms. So we would absolutely love to bring back a convention like that, and we do have conversations about when and where and how would be the best way to do it. So we just need to find our feet a little bit more with what's going on with the game and the community, etc. And other bits and pieces, but it's something that we're already talking about. Yeah, we'd love to do that.
Cool. So watch this space.
Very much so. Very much so. Yes.
I think just going back to the scenery stuff, it's actually very telling. The like the development that's gone over the entire length of War Machine, because you kind of had Mark 1 where everyone went, oh, I've got what scenery can I use? Oh, I've got some bits of fantasy, I've got some bits of 40k stuff. I just throw that on the table. It'd probably be fine. Then Mark 2, you saw this shift away and kind of got a couple of custom bits, but towards the end you had kind of the neoprene terrain, which meant that there were a lot of flat-looking tables, and while it was excellent to play on, a lot of people were like, I'm not sure I like the look of this anymore. And now what we're seeing is that kind of really interesting melding of the two, where we've kind of got the flat templates underneath, but we'll have 3D terrain on top. It's got like that nice best of both worlds that we're seeing now.
Yeah, I think there's a natural evolution that you will go through, where you try one thing, you try another, and over time people figure out, as you say, how can I get the best elements of all of these different things, and create that sort of fusion that is just like your sort of best in case gaming experience for whether or not you're a very tactical gamer or you're a fully hobbyist gamer or anywhere along that continuum.
Silence descends. It's that awkward point.
I thought it had crashed. I thought it done what he did last week or last month.
Hey, not again. I was about to ask. That was it. I actually want to return to an even earlier point, just quickly with you as well, Russ. Obviously, with this edition of War Machine, we've seen all the new factions coming with their 3D printed stuff and kind of the development that's had, and now you're looking at certainly for this 2-player starter set, so 2-player set. I don't know if it's a starter set, but looking at HIPS, kind of what does, in your opinion, what does HIPS bring to the table that you feel you couldn't have done or couldn't have done as well with 3D printing? What kind of where's that taking us as a kind of a miniature game?
I mean, that is a question that could have a very long answer. So I'll try and give you my headlines. I think that, I mean, I alluded to it earlier that HIPS offers some like opportunities that you just don't get in other materials. The key thing about HIPS as a material is that the plastic that you're using has like a material strength when it's thin that you can't get out of really any other material. And effectively what that means for a miniature is you're going to be able to have more dynamic and thinner cloth that feels more naturalistic. You're going to have more elegant weapons. You're going to be able to have freestanding or free hanging chains or hanging elements that would like just break off or be impractical as a gaming piece in any other material. So there's a number of things that you can do in terms of using these material strengths to use like really small contact points to get really dynamic silhouettes and posing. And I think one of the key sort of things that I look at a lot when I'm discussing the aesthetics of the miniatures and myself and Matt talk about this a lot, is this idea of silhouette really sort of helping sell the narrative of a model and a character, and how you can express what's happening with the miniature through their posing and silhouette and all of the dynamics like hair and cloth, and those things just become there's just so much further you can take that when you're working in plastic. And then conversely, it's an extremely mechanically accurate way of expressing like hard surface edges, so all of your mechanical stuff gets really, really crisply defined. And it's a material that when you're working with it doesn't really have any issues around shrinkage or warping, provided you're doing it properly. So the engineering tolerances on joints and connections can be much more finely controlled, and that allows you to do miniature construction where you can hide the joins and hide the seams in ways that again would be very difficult to replicate in any other material. So there's a lot of unique benefits to it. It's very exciting, and like I say, there are also some design considerations that don't restrict you any more than any other material. Because every part of the miniatures design process is a compromise, because you're making a model that's effectively 30 odd millimeters tall, and therefore there are enormous changes that you'd have to make over an equivalent life-size character, and so you're always working within a set of boundaries. It's just that the boundaries are slightly different with hips, which is what makes it exciting to work with.
Very nice, very cool. Just purely as like a nice simple one question for you here. From that 2-player starter set, what is your favourite model?
Man, that's really, really hard.
I'm asking you to kill darlings here.
It's a little bit like asking me to choose a favourite child. I mean, I have to emphasise, like, I did not design every model in this set. You know, I've worked with a team of very talented people on this set, but every model has got my fingerprints on it to a greater or lesser degree. To keep it fair, of the miniatures that I personally was responsible for, it's really, really tough. The obvious answer would be Kane, because that was the first not a wall model that I did. So it was the first kind of creative dialogue between myself and the privateer team. So landing that felt like a real achievement. But actually, honestly, I think it might be the the solo that's on the Cadre Commando set, the guy with the rocket launcher. I as soon as I saw the concept art for that, I just really fell in love with the art, and I'm very pleased with how that model went through the whole sculpting process into engineering. It's captured the original design and intent of the artwork really nicely. It's just one of those ones where everything just seemed to come together really. I'm very happy with one.
Interesting. So to perhaps go on the flip side, if I move over to Jamie, do you have a favourite? I mean, take it either as sculpt or rules from that box set.
I'm gonna keep it safe and stick with the sculpt, and I'm gonna go with the obvious answer, which is still Kane. I think it's just fantastic. There's a lot of very cool miniatures in that set, but I think the other thing as well is Kane is like one of the most storied models in that set as well there, and it's everyone loves a returning character, you know, that's already a fan favorite, and he's great.
Very much so. I was one of those players you were talking about.
God, I'm sorry.
I would say I was one of those players you were talking about earlier that wasn't sure where my home would be in Mark IV, and I eyed up Dusk, and then I eyed up New Crix, and then you announced Kane, and I went, okay, I'm going home. All you need to do is put Haley back, and I'm 100% sticking on forever.
Kane was just one in several chapters of, like, you know, I hope you've got wide shoulders, because it's like, right, your very first like character or very first like miniature that isn't a wall is going to be one of the most iconic characters in the game. Off you go. And then it was like a little bit further down the line, my very first exposure to the process of turning models into the production miniatures for the way that the system prints them was the Abyssal King. So it's like job one. Here's this huge, like, incredible sculpt. And so we've had several of these, like, really sort of crazy moments where it's like we've just got to land it, because we've got all these amazing sculpt and this amazing art, and there's this community that deserves these fantastic models, and it's just making sure that every time we hit it out the park. And so far, touch wood, everything is going very, very well. And we've been blessed with an enormous amount of background to draw on. The concept art, I've always maintained, for the entirety of my career sculpting, whenever I've been asked about how to present concepts for miniatures, I've always used examples from War Machine as like the gold standard, and it's a joy to work with.
Very nice. Well, gentlemen, I'm very much aware of the time and how much you were okay with sparing for us, and we really appreciate the what you've said. It's been absolutely lovely conversation. I do have one question for the chat. Feel free to answer it or not as you will. There's a question. I'll boil it down to: is the potential for something like the old Lock and Load keynote to return?
Ooh, that's a good question.
So even when we ran SteamCon, we used to conclude SteamCon, or it was a really big centerpiece for SteamCon as a keynote to what's going to be coming up and big releases, and having a Q&A with the staff and the developers and stuff like that. We absolutely love doing that kind of stuff. So again, even though that kind of convention is for the moment for us, it's aspirational, very, very early conversations. I'd barely call it planning. We'd love for it to come back. I think that it's safe to say that if that kind of show does come back, that we'd love to have that kind of keynote centerpiece and Q&A. And again, we love doing that. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, there you go. With that said, thank you very much, chaps. It's been lovely speaking to you, and hopefully be speaking to you more again in the future.
That would be absolutely great. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for having us on. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, well, we'll do a cut point there, but yes, thanks for coming on, and yeah, it's been absolutely good. So yeah, supposed to be better do the rest of the podcast at some point as well.
No problem.
Cool. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Cheers. You guys again.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.
That was good.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yes. Oh, that's Benj.
Oh, it's Benj. I have worked out where that's come from.
Yeah.
What? Fuck me.
What's bench?
Have you got a fan on Benj?
No. It may be picking up some of the adjustments that I made to try and make my mic. Like, I've been muting it, but
you actually have come through decently clearly. So
yeah, I need to work on the settings. I literally haven't done that. I was about as prepared as everyone else was.
One thing to check, I would always say, there's a option in Windows that basically says if the mic's not detecting it, will keep increasing the gain. Check that's not kicking in, because that that can sometimes just make it so it eventually hears your breathing.
No one wants to hear that.
Well, no, because as soon as it hears you breathe, it'll then drop down a little bit again. It's like it's just a silly Windows thing.
that's weird.
Noise cancelling thing.
Honestly, given the noise levels, this will be better than last episode where I had to go through every single sentence that Benj said. I had to boost up by like 500%. It
You could have just cut me out. You could have just.
No,
cut
I
me
couldn't, because then the conversation wouldn't have made sense.
out. Does it ever?
Okay,
make
it would have
sense?
made even less sense than it does now.
All right, fine. Well, someone in the chat said, "Is it a bit quiet for anyone else?" And I don't know.
I did boost the volume a little when
Right.
so thank you for telling us it was a bit quiet at that point. Okay, right. Should we get on with the back half of this thing?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna depart. Sorry, I did say I don't have too much time, so I apologise. But I haven't done anything with the hobby. All I did was spend the weekend playing Eclipse, and I've been running D&D. So those are the only things I've been talking about anyway.
Fair enough. It's more bench.
Yeah, it's more than me at the moment. Actually, I lie. I'm painting Dark Angels at the moment. So.
We can talk about that.
Well,
Yeah.
I just got some inspiration from listening to some, professional people, hobbyist people.
Right. You guys have fun.
Yeah.
I'll catch you later.
Cool.
Wait.
Hey.
Right. Let's do this thing.
I was looking at the
Damn it.
thread that. What?
I was just about to re-intro the show, but no.
Nice, Benj. Nice. You're channeling Alex. Liked it.
That was not my intention. But
Welcome
okay.
back for the break into Elite Cadre. The break being my mind. Anyway, yes, we're here so that we've had a lovely chat, and I thought after that we'd probably move on to some news. Yeah.
Actually, that was one thing. Nova's going on, isn't it? We should have maybe asked if they had a presence there. I don't know if they do.
I don't know.
I don't either. I haven't seen anything on social medias on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, on with the news. I'm still apparently very quiet. Interesting. I'm at maximum boost, so this could get extra spicy. Hang on, I'll just move the mic closer.
Oh. Are you sure? You wish to change to red alert from the purple alert? It does mean changing the bulb.
Yes.
Mm.
Oh dear.
I thought the moving closer to the mic was a Chocolate Rain reference, and you were going to start singing.
No.
Oh, that's a shame.
Genuinely, I have a cardioid mic, so there's very specific areas where it will pick up sound from.
Okay.
Am I sounding any louder to you guys?
You sound the same.
Minimally, yeah, minimally.
I mean, without shoving the microphone between my teeth, I'm not getting it any closer than this.
Okay.
Well, I'll see in post what it gets to. It's going to be hilarious again. Anyway, first piece of news, as will be visible to people who are watching on the stream. P3 Hobby Paints. They are coming back. Launching September the 10th on Kickstarter.
Was your question, Kurt, earlier to have a stab to see if they were going to do some sort of contrast?
No, so I knew they weren't going to do contrast, mainly because I take the liberty of firing random questions at Russ when the whim takes me. I've known Russ quite a long time. We bonded over trolls a very many years ago. So
shall we potentially be careful with what's said in private conversations? You're making it onto the podcast. I'm just going to put.
So no, I'm not reading anything. My understanding is they're not doing anything around contrast yet. So let's skip to that bit first. He doesn't tell me anything he's not allowed to tell me anyway, because he knows that I'm blabbermouth anyhow. It's true. I can pretend that I'm not, and I won't be. I'll be circumspect for 10 minutes and then done. No, I think it's really great that P3's come back. And it caught me by surprise. It shouldn't have done that. It was going to be a Kickstarter, especially having backed Tooth and Coat's Kickstarter for similar products myself. I'm intrigued by it. I'm intrigued to see what options are and what's coming out. I've got quite a lot of P3 paints from the previous releases of it. I love it. I think it's really good paint. And talking to Russ about what's happened with it and listening to other podcasts with Matt and Rich on talking about it as well, it sounds really positive. It sounds great. I'm really optimistic about it.
Well, I think for those people who are listening at the moment, There is a podcast called The Painting Phase on YouTube where I believe Matt is going to talk to them about the upcoming Kickstarter. But there was also an article on Steamforge the other day.
Yeah, there is. I'm looking at it. Yeah.
That outlined some of the basics of what they were planning to do with the line. One of the things they mentioned was the original thinking behind the line of paint, the fact that it was very smooth, very high pigment, and they wanted to keep going in that vein, which kind of, that is what I want to hear.
I agree, and I would hope that they change the delivery, as in the bottle, especially with the cap that used to come on P3. They used to just snap in half, like just from use, and dry up. But I would love to see some of the very rich pigment paints come back from them.
I have in front of me a bottle of Iron Hull Grey. In fact, it's in my hands right now, on which the hinge has broken, and the little tab to open it with has also snapped off.
Yeah.
I hate these pots. I loathe them. I use them only because that's what's there. My most used P3 paints go in droppers.
Yeah, me too. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, I do exactly the same. I'm my favorite color is easily Manoth White Highlight. I use way more of it. In fact, it's replaced white in many cases from painting. It's my default. It is my white for most uses. Not every, but almost all. I think until I started going to pink for recent Chimera, which I'll circle back to later. There I went to proper white, but yeah, I love it. And I agree with you, Mike. I've just put it in droppers. I've got some nice dropper bottles. I just decant them.
I think if you need that nice warm white, I will say Menoth White base, really nice paint to go from. And
slightly more yellow, but yeah,
well, that's what I mean by warm white.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start from. You kind of develop from there.
From my memory, P3 never had any washers, did they?
They had inks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I never saw those, so I'd be quite.
They were fairly rare from what I remember. So
I had some, so that they were kind of like the earlier pre-washed GW inks in a sense. They were quite bold. They were quite solid, and they're lovely. I've still got red. I've still got yellow. Really love them, and they stretch a very, very long way. I bought one pot of each, and the lids of those dropper bottles were different, but they had their own challenges. I'll be honest as well.
Well, they used the same bottles as the medium, didn't they?
I think so.
Or was I the only person to ever buy the medium?
Jesus, there was medium.
Yeah. Oh, that's.
I think I bought one of them, but I quite like the two thin coats medium, so I kind of probably ignored the other one after a while.
Which is fair enough. But I used a lot of P3's medium over the years. Yeah, that was great stuff. I can't believe you didn't know it existed.
I mean, to be fair, I used to. They were quite expensive paints back in the day, so I didn't used to look at that range too much, unless it was for like Menoth White, Menoth Base, or the Sanguinary like reds that they did, because they were very pigment rich.
We don't talk about the price of paints here, Bench. No,
no,
they're all expensive.
Because otherwise, I'd have to think about the two really useful boxes that are by my left foot, and how much paint they contain, and what that cost. And we don't go there.
You've got a credit card. It's all debt.
I've got a credit card that I paid off just as interest rates started going up.
Woo.
So I was very lucky with that. I cleared a large number. Let's put it that way.
Did you buy some more paint to celebrate?
No.
Oh, okay.
I've been very good with money ever since.
I'd like some tips, please.
Yeah, financial advice.
I only feel poor because it's all going in the pension. But we'll move on from that one.
Wait, you're planning to retire? Holy shit!
At some point. We'll talk financial planning later, Benj. We need to.
You're joining. Are you joining the NHS bench? The NHS pension is very, very good.
I have, yeah, I have heard, and I will be. I do have an NHS pension, but
I thought you might, but I wasn't sure.
yeah. I need to do one of those things where you amalgamate like so many odds and sod pensions.
Oh no, I've made a poor choice, haven't I? I said a
What's
word, and now it's going to take over the conversation.
No, we'll stop now. We'll stop now.
All
It's
right,
fine.
okay,
We'll
that's
stop now.
fine. Yeah, sorry.
Let's move on to the next piece of news. So we have seen the Signar Colossal Maelstrom.
Shiny.
Have we
That's-
seen more than the concept art now? Because I've only seen the concept art.
No, we've only seen the
Okay.
concept art.
With comparison to Mastodon as well.
Yeah, it probably peaks higher, but the bulk is slightly
Yeah.
less. It's kind
Yeah.
of got fins at the front that stick up a bit.
So this and Kane are causing me difficulties because I was going to step away from Signar, potentially sell it, get rid of my Signar, and not play Signar anymore. And this is causing me difficulties.
Well, I mean, you could sell your Storm Legion, move into Gravediggers.
No, I don't want to do that anyway.
I mean,
Gravediggers don't do much for me. It's fine.
does this mean? I mean, I don't know. Is the Mastodon specific to a cadre of Cadre
Yeah.
or just
Not Cadre, but army. Yeah.
army? So does that mean that we'll get 2 Colossals, one for the Gravediggers potentially?
Potentially.
We
Yeah.
will.
It
Oh,
might be a variation. It might be a variation of this. It might be this but yes, we will get a different one.
well, the reason that was because there's coal burners by the looks of it on the jacks for the Gravediggers, so I couldn't imagine lightning coils and stuff like that for the same
No, true.
same thing. So hopefully,
I think it'll be interesting to see if the pattern is kept up for all the future factions, where you have that core, then the auxiliary, then you start getting, here's your 80 mil, here's your 120 mil. Okay, time to move on to the next faction.
It keeps it contained. There's a sanity to that in the sense of going back to they did try and do this with End of Mark III, but the End of Mark III was so broad that it melted your brain trying to retain everything. And then we'll get to that point as well in a way with just sheer quantity of armies. We'll do a similar thing, but that is the nice thing about the current. I know there's all the legacy armies as well, but the known quantity of what's likely to be on the table is definitely a manageable thing to have in your head.
Yes.
Or to at least have an idea of how these things fit together. So,
well,
I like that.
it was refreshing what Jamie said there. It links back into kind of the release cycle of product as well, in the fact that we're going to have time to play with these minis before other minis sort of come out as well. And I really appreciate that because as well as rules fatigue, there's also like product fatigue after a while.
Yes.
It's a new thing, and you barely feel like you get time to play with the newest thing before something else replaces it. So,
Benj, just before we go on, I'm getting a lot of hand noise from your mic.
I'll continue to mute it until I can find these settings.
Fair enough.
Okay.
But going back,
I like it. I like it. It's shiny. Yes.
But going kind of. Oh no, I've lost my train of thought now. No, it's terrible.
You were going back to something.
I wasn't I? Oh, that's it. But going back onto that train of thought, I mean, I've got my Cadre, I've got my Winter Command all set up, and as far as we're aware, other than further cadres, which we presume are coming, that's basically it for the moment for that army.
Yes,
So
there might be some other thing that happens, specialist character thing, maybe, but for the most part, yes, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
So I've got this nice, self-contained lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I've also still got something to look forward to because Cadre's obviously getting Old Umbre as well. But I know that's also going to be another nice little self-contained thing that I can pull the cadres into but which the Winter Command stuff is going to be entirely separate. I think that's kind of
and similar with Brine Bloods. Brine Bloods are one part of Southern Creoles. We've got the frogs that are the Cadre that are going to be both armies, and then we've got the other Southern Creoles, which I think will look more like the older previous trolls. I think, but we don't know. We don't know until it starts coming out. But yeah, I like that as well. I like that.
And I think it's good that we're kind of getting this on a. It looks like it's a very long-term paced plan. Like
manageable.
Yeah. I don't think they're not looking to break any banks with this. They're looking to just kind of continuously put new product out there that's interesting, and then at the same time go, yeah, but just think, you're not doing anything about. You could pick up a starter for another army. Oh,
Yeah,
that'll give you 50 points.
they had they recently announced the prices, didn't they? And what would be included. And they're pretty competitive with other games on the market. So you could, if you were, that way inclined, just pick up a Wii faction on the side while you wait for new stuff.
And if
in no way have I done
that. Yes, I know. After our discussion last time, I mean, it's key as well because, of course, when you pick up those boxes, you're picking up the perfect dining room table experience, like 30 to 50 points. It's enough for like a rainy afternoon game. There's some interesting stuff coming in. But speaking of those boxes, there are 2 more pictures that we have that have come through recently, and that is with the announcement of the Cadre Command boxes. So it's a slight repackaging of what's gone before, in that the Cadres will now come with a Warjack. So the first 2 of these have, the 2 that are needed have been announced. We have for Cadre, we have the Cadre Annihilators Avalanche. Which
did yours not come with one anyway? They just had? They were just sorry. So the Cadre one previously was just Men of War. There was no Warjack in there.
So the Cadre box was Sakura.
A character and a unit and another character.
Not even a second character. It was just a normal solo.
Solo, yeah. So they don't all have that issue. So the trolls, the Southern Creoles had a War Beast. The Dusk had a Warjack. Anyway, so it's interesting that I think they're just uniforming it in some respects.
Yeah, it's that aim to get everything roughly on a par. I've got to say, I love the look of Avalanche, because it takes. I don't know if you've seen this.
Does he come with a character upgrade, or is he a character himself?
I'm not sure if it's a character himself or it's just another Cadre Jack. I guess we'll know more.
The Avalanche Warjack doesn't suggest that's a character. So it suggests it's a model of Warjack. The Avalanche Warjack's just a model rather than a character. So it's going to be a hull standard chassis with arms. You could choose to magnetize it and make it optional bench, or you could, because is that the bear? Is that the Kodiak bear, or the larger, heavy? I'm not
the Great Bear.
Is that a Great Bear chassis?
I'm not sure that's a standard chassis.
Right. So it's different together.
Because it's got the emblem on top of the hull. It's got those.
I'm going to look at the Signal one. The Signal one does look very similar to a Striker.
Yeah, the Borealis.
So if we move over to the other one, Borealis.
Looks like a Signal. Looks like a Striker.
It looks really characterful, though.
Yeah. I mean, this is concept art. So for those who are not watching the stream, first of all, kind of go through. Avalanche looks like a fairly chunky head, a very big shield with some rock grinders on it.
Yeah.
And then for a right arm, what looks like some sort of piston ram spear.
I hadn't noticed that on the shield. They're like the front of the diesel occult tanks, aren't they? It's it's like a rock grinder. It's like it's very similar. I hadn't took that.
Well, I suppose name like Avalanche, having that kind of rock crushing shield and
That's fair.
a spear that can just jab into stuff. It works for that image. Borealis, on the other hand, Signar have finally learned the exciting Cadre tech of a really big mace.
What's wrong with that?
I do like the Borealis in comparison to the Striker variant and stuff like that. It looks like a mini Stormwall to me. But
I mean, don't all.
So it's very similar. So I'm jumping between the Great Bear, Warjack, and the Avalanche, and they are very similar. It's like there's extra bits. It's like the front covers on the chimneys and some extra bits on the top of the chimneys, but it's very, very similar. Shoulder pads are a bit different. Shoulders are different. No, shoulders are just different.
Yeah. Well, the shoulder. Oh, actually, yes. So the shoulders are missing the protective section that I'm trying to remember. I think the Great Bear magnetizes an extra plate coming out the side on there. So these are skinnier arms.
It doesn't look like a direwolf either. It is more like the Great Bear, but with different kind of. It's interesting. Maybe they are. Maybe they are just one-offs. Because we've had it elsewhere. So the Jack in the Cadre box for Dusk, Ghost of Ios, that's not a character Jack. Spectre isn't a character Jack. It seems like it is, but it's not. It's FA2, I think, and that's a completely different chassis. It's in 2 or 3 pieces. I've got one. It's no, I do not have too many factions. It's
I mean, reading the announcement, it says we're introducing 2 new Warjacks. Doesn't say characters, obviously, but they seem like they're on their own.
Yeah, if you look at the Borealis compared to the Striker as well, the Borealis has a much bigger hood over the top.
Oh yeah. Does it? Okay.
It's got a bigger storm chamber by the looks of it.
You've got that. You've got the plate that is the top of what would be the hull, but then where you've got a simple metal piece for the Striker, you've then got this black arcantric thing that overhangs, and then you've got that brass plate on top. Like they've added a bit to that cowl, I think. Now, it may well be that this doesn't make it to the tabletop. It may well be that it's just something that fits over what's pre-existing there. We don't know. But what I can say is, these look kind of tight.
I think it's a different Jack. It's different. It's different enough. I think that's a different Jack. I initially thought it's the same. It's very similar, but the more you look at it, the more there's stuff there. There's like so many little details. The shoulders are different. There's fiddly stuff to add. No, that's not what this is all been about. As recently, so no, I think I'll take it back. I think it's different.
Kurt, you're coming through a bit crackly, distorted.
But yes, to
I will sort that out. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, his cost is nearly, as in actual money, is a significant amount of the actual command cadre. He's $32.99. The box set itself is $80. But I mean, I'm not really interested in the Storm Smiths, but I am interested in the Storm Legion. So I don't know.
If you're looking to buy the Jack separately, then do it now, because I think these are going to be a little like. Well, actually, we don't know.
No.
It just says it's exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah. Will they be exclusive to the box or not?
Might be exclusive to the online store.
I'll be honest. I plan on picking up an Avalanche and a Borealis because they both look very, very nice. And hopefully we see, well, the physical models soon. TM.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So that's it for the news for this episode. So there's been nothing else of note other than to say the WTC has happened, I guess. One of the biggest tournaments in the world.
I enjoyed the Pigs on Parade video. If you haven't seen that, go and find that. It was a very, very cool video of just basically everybody lining up their big pigs from Carver's war beast that he runs with as the
that is just it's both a fantastic image and a kind of sad one. In the it's like, oh, that is so much painted miniature end to end, but at the same point, it's in all these armies.
I think there were very, very few that didn't have one. Almost every person had one in either list, it seemed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for releasing stuff out there and letting it meet the community, maybe be a little overpowerful, and then, maybe people go, oh, hang on, eventually there's a solution, or not. I think perhaps maybe some analysis has to go on there, and I think perhaps some changes will come at some point, but
yeah, I mean, I joked about it with Jamie earlier on, but it's definitely got to be the first candidate in the list, just because it's so good and it's something I wanted it even before I realized how good it was, but yeah, I mean, it has to have some tweak. I'm hoping not too much. I really am hoping not too much.
Yeah, I think light touch would be best. But what I will say as well, that is, if you like your pigs, that is a nice looking model.
It is lovely. It's lovely to paint as well. It's fantastic to paint.
I wouldn't know. I'm still waiting for mine.
Okay.
Actually, that's the point. I could have used the opportunity to prod Jamie and go, can you see what's happening with my order from the store?
Well, yeah, you could try.
No, I have been told my order has been posted. It will get to me eventually.
I don't think my pre-orders have been posted yet. I've been told it's been picked, but I haven't got any further than that yet. But yeah, I think there's definitely the demand outstripped but even the revised capacity. I think
perhaps also someone didn't look at the calendar and go, oh hey, GenCon's there.
Yeah,
because that will have eaten up a significant amount of Steamforge time. I mean, just looking from what was going on there, with everyone having an actual kind of booth for War Machine, that was selling through the new Crick stuff, which people have now got their hands on.
Yep.
That was it was good to see. It's like War Machine's kind of back, as it were.
Yeah, very much so. I totally agree. It's really good to see.
So yeah. See, this episode feels very out of order to me because we've done like a main topic, then news. I'm like, what do we do next? Oh yeah, we do the painting table. Wait, hang on, this episode is completely wrong.
Good.
So,
yeah. I like completely wrong.
Yes, I think we can start winding down now. So first up, Benj. What's on your painting table?
I am still continuing to battle through Dark Angels, 30k in the Vega.
30k.
Yeah,
30k Dark Angels. Cool.
Yeah. I do find. I do find I want to go back to painting Primaris again because the scale is bigger, but I am enjoying. Well, I got a rhino for my birthday, so I'm just painting that currently. But yeah, I am still looking at Privateer Press stuff, but I think it's going to be a way before that ends up on the table, unless Mike actually ships that stuff.
The box is sat next to me, Benj.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. One day.
It's so well packed that if I actually move it next to the mic, you can't even hear it rattle.
Wow.
Wow.
I used enough bubble wrap. Those models should survive.
Oh, that's fantastic. What are they actually put together? Did you put them together?
They are put together on magnetized bases bench.
Holy shit! You're spoiling me.
They were put together for me first of all. I was like, Benj needs these more than I do.
Oh, you could, yeah, but then you could have stripped the magnets off and like just given me the bare basics.
I have next to my PC a stack of 500 magnets. I don't think I'm short. So
I think. Have you got? Are you using the trays with the line? You know, the budget, or have you actually invested in one of these magnet cases, which I've seen?
I have really useful boxes and ferrous rubber sheeting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm cheap.
Well, they are.
So I do the ferrous sheeting, but I buy my boxes from IKEA.
Yeah.
The price of transportation has gone up like dramatically.
I don't know. I think it's cheaper. I think it's. I mean, do you mean postage, or do you mean like?
No.
There's cases with all the foam in were way more expensive than going to B&M and buying a big box and putting some ferrous sheeting in it.
I meant if you wanted to do it with because some of these things double as a display case as well.
Oh
so
yeah.
Yeah. Those things. Yeah. Those are horrendous. Yeah.
Yeah. I was. But yeah, no. I think I'm glad to see that the community has embraced alternatives to foam.
I think once we foam was great, but at the same point, my models never fit in foam. Like never. There were bits hanging out over one edge, hanging out over the other. Then, in my time away from War Machine, I moved it to 40k. There's no way you're fitting any of that in foam. It would horrify me to put some of those models in foam. So, having this stackable magnetic case system that also, once I get home, I just chuck it on the pile, and I know it's like it just locks into the rest of the pile. It works so well.
You are selling it to me. Gonna be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even with the IKEA boxes, I'm guessing they're stackable ones. Yeah.
They are. I don't think they're quite lock-in as much. Dom was done the same as you. He's bought exactly the same boxes as you, and is doing this with his Cadre as well, but his other armies.
I mean, the reason everyone ends up with the same boxes, and the reason why, if you go onto Amazon, you see them as the frequently bought together products, is because Duncan Rhodes suggested them.
Oh, see, right.
Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy has a full video on how to assemble magnetic storage. And it's got links to the magnets, the sheeting, and the boxes. It's like,
wow, I didn't know that.
Can't make it any easier than that to have an alternative to a 200 quid battle foam bag. Actually, I don't know. I don't know how much battle foam is these days. It could be.
I don't want to know.
It's.
I think where foam will still, I'll still have to use it for public transport. I don't think I could carry multiple magnetized things.
Well, here's the thing, Benj. You see, on Amazon, you will also find a selection of collapsible wheelie crates with a handle.
Oh.
Which are the perfect size to fit 4-litre really useful boxes on their side. So if you want to go on public transport, you could just have a case that you could wheel about behind you, slam it into other people's shins if you wanted them to get out of the way.
Well, when you used to carry a massive battle foam bag or an equivalent KS one, which was even larger, you would definitely knock people as you were. It was a battering ram of sorts when you were just going around corners or getting off the bus. Like literally, so.
I will say as well, for going around events, having the magnetic storage is great because I've also put a magnetic sheet on top of one of the lids, so I can just use it as my tray when I'm going round. So, this is really easy.
And I magnetise the top so I can put my measuring sticks on the top. So I haven't got such a fanciful stick arrangement and widget arrangement is itself, Mike. But I have got magnetised my Broken Egg Games measuring sticks, and that all adheres wonderfully to the top as well.
If you ever want to get into like owning way too many widgets, War Machine is the game for you.
It really is.
I fear, however, we have veered far from Benji's painting table.
Yeah.
So just a quick question, Benj. I take it you're doing the proper 30k scheme. Was it the black and is it red Dark Angels?
Black, red, gunmetal, and then occasional Deathwing, sort of like cream. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. I've definitely seen versions of the lion in that.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah.
That get up, and it looks properly nice.
Yeah.
By the way, I do have to plug this one because it was a really good listen on Audible. I don't know about reading the book itself, but Lion, Son of the Forest from GW.
Oh, it's very good. I've done it as well. I've listened to it as well. It's very, very good.
There is some quality Warhammer fiction.
I liked it.
It's on my list. I'm still working my way through the Solar War at the moment. So
I thought you were just going to say
it's kind of not dependent upon anything as well. You could listen to it independently. It's very, very good.
Yeah. It's all just about the return of Lionel Johnson and what happens as a result, and the thoughts of a Primarch as he goes to the universe and goes, what's been going on for the last 10,000 years? Why is everything so terrible?
Yep, pretty much.
Why are these people absolutely insane? It's just so good. And there's some nice, slightly subtle bits, like was it the one Dark Angel who won't take his armor off for any reason whatsoever? Like exactly why, but they never say it.
No.
It's very, very nicely done as a book. So
I liked it a lot. It's very, very good.
I feel like that's my GW plug. Oh, for the next 5 minutes done. I've just realised what a painting table's going to be. Kurt.
Hello.
What's on your painting table?
Well, there's always Dark Angels on my painting table, but they don't get touched very often. They're just sat at the back. But fundamentally, lots of Chimera. I've been painting lots of Chimera, pink Chimera.
So, are you now feeling at home with that scheme? Because I know you were experimenting it with it the last time we were talking.
I am. Yes, I am, because I had definitely reversed it. I painted a unit of Death Dealers, and then found myself going, actually, this feels the wrong way around, and that should be that color, and the skin should be the more blue bit, and the armor should be the more pink. And then flipped it around, and then managed to make them change without too much dramatic, without messing it up. Yeah, no, I like it. I like it a lot. I think getting the Wyvern is just kind of base painted, so I think getting the Wyvern done will help. But I've got some Orbeez done. I've got some units done now, so yeah, I'm really happy about it. The hard part at the moment is that I keep getting distracted or wanting to do stuff with Dusk, because I acquired a Dusk army for a very, very good price, and I keep wanting to go, yeah, but I could just paint some yellow on this Dusk. I haven't done any. I've not put a brush on Dusk at all yet, and I think I know how I want it to look, and I think it was just looking at some of the armies at the Welsh Masters and then at the WTC. Definitely yellow, high contrast yellow with dark armor or dark under elements is a really strong color scheme. Just trying to work out what to do with that and how I want it to be, and maybe looking at some kind of digital camo type effect, but I'm not sure how to paint that yet. Something like that.
That's going to be a challenge.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, but the challenge will be working out how to do it, how to paint digital camo on a model. There's got to be a way of sponging it or doing something that achieves that goal. I'm literally I'm at the start of that journey. I'm still painting pink Chimera at the moment. And I'm enjoying playing them. I've stopped outright losing with Chimera, which is nice. I know you had some challenges playing against them, but going from trolls into Chimera is very different.
Well, I was going to say my last game against Chimera was, I felt bad for my last game against Chimera. I think I told you what happened in it.
You did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, game of two fronts. Just for the benefit of the listeners, it was a game on two fronts where my opponent went second, and on their second turn failed to contest either of the 40 mil objectives and let me have one of the 50s as well. It was
You can't do that now.
It was
You
kind
can't do that at Steam 24.
Yeah. It was very brutal, and they realised as they passed the turn, like, oh, you've scored 5, I've scored 2. Like, yep, that's game. One model died in that game, and I did not make a single. Oh no, I made some attack rolls and did some damage, but I didn't take a single model off the table.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
actually,
I've had several games of that in Mark IV. I shouldn't say Mark IV, the current edition of War Machine.
Yeah.
Where I've won on scenario by, the required 3 or up to 7 CPs, and entire armies have been left on the table. Usually when playing with Baronova as well, because her feat of, no running, no charging, no slamming.
No talking in libraries.
Yeah, basically, yes. Oh, and -4 range. Is pretty good at just making people go, oh, I can't move up.
Can't do anything.
There. And if they haven't the turn before got somewhere, it's game over a lot of the time. Which is very interesting. But no, it sounds like you're making good progress on the Chimera so far, and yeah.
I've had 2 weeks off, and that wasn't all at home. So that was camping in Devon with no signal and no hobbying. So apart from playing cockroach poker, actually, that went down very well. So I've owned it for ages, heard amazing things about it, never managed to actually get it out, but was like, you know what, we're playing this. We're in a tent. There aren't a lot of options. We can't really get a full board game out or anything. I've only brought some. We'll try this, and yeah, it went down very, very well with the whole family. Really, it's hilarious.
I think if you've got people with the right mentality, cockroach poker can be an excellent game. I am not a person with that mentality. It drives me up the wall. I'm fully willing to admit there are people who absolutely love that game. I think it's just amazing. I would rather jump off a bridge than play it again.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
It's like it's a proper Marmite game from what I know. I've played
that right there. That is a bat.
Yeah.
No, that's a rat. And you go round and round. Yeah. Or some people get infuriated with the whole kind of just passing it on. Some people are like, no, you can't just keep passing it on. I'm just going to play this one, and then like they just keep losing, and you're like, well, you're just going to lose if you do that. It's funny. I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot. I was impressed by it.
I think if you like your social, if you like your social deduction and bluffing games, if you like stuff like Werewolf, it's a totally different game, but or Coup. Actually, if you like stuff like Coup as well, very much in a light version of that.
And it's so small, and it's just cards, and you can play it anywhere.
You're effectively just passing cards to people and daring them to call you a liar.
Yep.
And that's the entire basis of the game. If you can bluff, if you enjoy having a good, if you think it's a good time to like read other people around the table and just watch them sweat as you're like, do I reveal the card? Like, then it's a game.
You start learning, but you also start learning patterns of people as well. Of that they'll alternate between lying or telling the truth, and they'll try and play within that. My youngest started right at the beginning was doing this weird American accent, and then we realised that she was lying whenever she was doing the accent. It's like, right, that's quite obvious.
Someone has a tell.
Yes, it is a tell. A massive, it was good fun. Yes, I have not done very much hobbying in the last few weeks, but I will endeavour to try and get back on the hobby wagon and try and stick with my Chimera, because that's what I struggle with, is sticking with something. Yeah, it's good. It's going well. I'm enjoying it. Not taking. I thought it would really take hold of me. It hasn't yet. I'm still enjoying it. I have stopped losing all my games, which is a good place to be because obviously you change faction dramatically in War Machine, and it's almost like starting again.
Yeah. You lose that muscle memory of how a game should start, because so many armies, so many even different casters within armies, you know what your first turn's going to be, and then you change army and you go, how do I even deploy? What model goes where?
What do you mean my army can't take a charge? What?
It's the amount of people I've seen go from armies that constantly have what's that rule that allows you to move and see through your own guys?
Tactician.
Tactician, thank you.
Yeah.
The one that basically allows you to ignore large chunks of the game. That go from full tactician armies to, oh no, everything is in the wrong order. That's a hard lesson to learn for some people.
And going from Blind Bloods who have some Pathfinder and the ability to get it and have it in important places, to an army that is entirely Pathfinder, and if it hasn't got Pathfinder, it's because it flies.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Terrain doesn't exist. Okay, good. Hence why I took the mick out of Jamie earlier on for like, oh, so you've gone for a faction of a nature that you've never played before, because obviously Chimera, clearly nothing like Legion. That's clearly a lie.
Just remember, Eyeless Sight doesn't work how it used to.
No, it doesn't. And also, they don't have as much eyesight as you think they do.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yes. But anyway, yes, that's we'll get back on the hobbying.
Fair enough.
How about you, Mike? What's in your painting tip?
Well, since the last episode, I finally actually managed to get a Colossal painted. The Mastodon. Oh, I'd got it to green.
That's a lot of green. That's a lot of green.
I'd got it green before the episode, because that's my standard. Like, I go in with the black and then do the 2 layers of green, and that was fine. Then I got a monster brush, and I got the Surcoat Silver and spent a day, because there is so much pipe work in awkward places on that thing that it's one of the few times where I've sat there and thought, being in this few pieces is a nuisance. Because at the front there are armoured plates that cover areas where there are pipes, but because it's 3D printed, there's a space in there where you can see. But getting in to paint it is, shall we say, a challenge. Even with a smaller brush. In the end, though, wasn't too bad. Took most of a day to do, and I even added a scenic thing to the base that I'm really happy with. Went delving about in the bits box, found old Man of War parts, a Terrain Geek.
Cool.
Oh, I've lost a bench. Found a Terrain Geek objective marker, and just have this fallen Man of War leaning up against oil drums, and the armor is rusted. It's got verdigris on the brass parts. I was
very nice.
I was really happy with how that came out, especially because it's such a simple effect. GW Typhus Corrosion and Riser Rust as a pair of paints are phenomenal at adding weathering to things. They will ruin brushes. Like, before anyone goes out and buys them and starts using them. Like, if you've got your Winsor & Newton series, what is it, 7s? Like,
yeah, Winsor 7s, yeah, Series 7s, yeah.
Those paints go nowhere near that. You want brushes from a craft store that cost 10p, that like have bristles at 27 different angles the second you buy them. Like, they will destroy.
I've never used them. I've never used them. I think we'll check those out, actually, because the weathering is something that I've played with at different times, but I didn't know that those were good.
Yeah. Well, so Typhus Corrosion is it's a very dark, sort of oily black. It looks like an oily black paint when you paint it on, but as it dries, you realise it's got this gritty texture inside, so which raises up as it dries, which is kind of a weird effect when you look at it. 'Cause you don't feel it when you're painting it on at all. It looks like it's smooth paint, but then it dries to this very rough surface. And then Riser Rust is a very thick, gloopy. I mean, it's listed as dry. It's still technically a runny paint, but it's listed as dry. And
so like the basing stuff they sell, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but without any of the texture in, and it's literally just there for a heavy dry brush over typhus corrosion. And because you're just catching the edge of all this sort of dried on grit and sand, it gives you that like iron oxide illusion everywhere that you put it. And if you're careful as well with like the very raised edges, not putting typhus corrosion on, but just having exposed shiny metal there, it looks like you've got that combined effect of rust, but with the weathering as well, where it's just that patina's been worn smooth. And yeah, it's like the amount of stuff you can do very easily with very few of these weathering paints is phenomenal at this point.
And that's what you put on the Man of War on the base.
Yeah,
just to be clear. Cool.
There's also for the bronzes and coppers something called Nylac oxide, which is essentially like a wash or a contrast paint that just adds that kind of green tint at the edge that you see on aged, weathered, pitted copper outside. That was another nice one. That one's harder to work with. I will admit it's hard to get a good effect with that one. But there's again, Duncan Rhodes did a very good tutorial on it where you can have sort of that sort of bleeding down building, so it looks like water's just come down in rivulets off it and just left this like slimy green verdigris down walls and stuff. It's all just so very
nice. That's cool. I have to admit, I've not really checked those sort of things out very much, but that sounds very cool.
I will as well, if you're in the market for stuff to do with vehicles. This one could be a bit of a hard colour match, but I quite like it on my Bison. Tamiya, who do a lot of model tanks and stuff like that, they do a mudstick pen.
Oh.
Which literally just looks like a grease pen or something when you open it up. And what you do is, wherever you've got tracks or anything that kind of contacts the ground, just start wiping the thing across there. And what you'll find is you get this like nice natural clogged mud build-up.
Oh, wow.
Wherever you'd want it. It dries pretty hard as well. And it does just look like this thick, caked on, sort of claggy mud.
So wheel arches and that kind of stuff. You mean?
It's absolutely perfect. I used it all over the tracks on my Bison. So as they're coming up at the back, there's loads in the track there, and I've slowly lightened as it goes forwards at the top, with a little coming out the other side. So it looks like it's all been shaken loose as it goes. I love stuff like this. I do have an experimental kit to use at some point, which I don't know if you've ever seen the whole winter whitewash thing for tanks.
Don't think so.
Oh, okay. So there's two different methods of doing this. Spray your tanks green, like I've done.
Yeah.
But then on top of it, you have the winter whitewash, which, if you're in a winter environment, you don't want green to show, so you put this white over. And there's two of them. One of them you then go over with water, and it makes it look like it just takes a little bit of the top off the paint. So it looks like the whitewash has been applied, but over time it started to, just wash away and filter down through the cracks in the vehicle. The other one is more of a crackle paint, and as you run water over it, bits will flake off. So it looks like the thing's been hit, or where you've got exposed surface that people clamber over. It's just been worn off by people moving effectively. I do love this kind of stuff, and I'd love to do more of it, but it requires a level of knowledge and skill sometimes that takes a little bit of a build up to get to. So
it's very cool.
yeah.
No, that's really interesting. So I have played with some texture paints and crackle paints and things as well, but I haven't played with those sort of weathering sort of effects and things. My experience was fairly limited. I think because I came into War Machine, I've never done an awful lot of weathering effects on War Machine models. I could see it be more useful on 40k tanks, and I could see the use of the Bison, which sits in between in a way, doesn't it? It's a War Machine model, but it's kind of a tank. It is a tank, but it's sits in between in a way. And Warjacks are, because they don't have wheels or tracks, you don't tend to have that kind of, I know they walk and they still get scuffed and damaged. So there's definitely a scope there.
It's one of those things where if it was just a weapon of war and there was an explosion nearby and it was covered in dirt, I can just imagine a Warjack walking through and being covered in dirt.
Yeah.
But in the universe of War Machine, because they have a little bit of a brain, I can imagine it being covered in dirt and just kind of flicking it off with a spare hand. Like, that's more what I imagine from a Warjack, or shaking down like a dog, which they're often like the cortex is often compared to. That was my painting side of things. I should now move on to wider hobby, in that I've spent the last 2-3 weeks. I built Skaven Tide.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've built Skaven Tide. I've got many issues of Stormbringer as well, which I'm kind of picking up all the Stormcast out of. We've been having games of Spearhead, which is GW's new beginner product for Age of Sigmar down the club. That's a very nice little system.
That's it.
I don't know if you're aware of it.
I'm aware of it, but I'm not into Age of Sigmar. I played Fantasy in the old world. Fantasy years ago, 20 years ago, plus, but not massively. I've always been more of a 40k than a Fantasy player. AOS I've generally avoided, and like I have Old World, I saw the Skaven stuff coming out. I still look at it. I still see the social media stuff for it. Generally quite good at avoiding it though.
So, Spearhead is a very interesting product. What it does is you get your Skaven Tide box with your main core rulebook and your 2 armies, and it's all lovely. But you also get this book called, I think it's Jade and Fire, and you also get a folder as well. The Jade and Fire book is one or 2 spearheads or starter armies for every faction in the game, usually based around a spearhead box set. So these are the spearhead or vanguard or the beginner products they've been doing for ages. And it will be a different rule set to what's in the main game. It'll be simplified, cut down, maybe with a special ability or 2. And then this folder contains a fold-out 8-panel board.
I've seen that.
Somewhere
between, so it feels a bit somewhere between Kill Team and Combat Patrol. It feels like it's in between those two things in a way.
It's closer to Combat Patrol, but on top of Combat Patrol, the boards all have objectives built into them.
Oh.
So they've all got 5 objective points. And in the folder, you get decks of cards, which are very interesting. They replace like the stratagems. Well, not stratagems.
Mm-hmm.
They replace the battle plans of the main game.
Yep.
So that rather than spending CP to do this or whatever, every card has 2 options. One of which will be do this, score a VP. So it might be take control of an objective, contest the scenery piece on your half of the board, contest the senior periods on your opponent's part, whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
But the other half will be discard this to give a unit strikes first this turn.
Oh.
Discard this to retreat from combat without taking damage.
So half Maelstrom cards, half command cards, kind of almost, kind
Yep.
of. You could choose to either score points with it, or you could use it to gain an advantage. I
Yep.
see that. Yeah.
And
cool.
you're only ever getting 3 per battle round.
Oh, for the round. Okay.
Yes. And also, because of Sigmar's mechanic of effectively being at the end of every battle round, you roll off to see who chooses who goes first the next one. If you're the lucky person to get the double turn, so you go
Double turn.
last in one round and first the next, you don't draw. So you might have spent your 3 cards. So you can score nothing for your secondary objectives for that entire round, unless you let your opponent go.
I was aware of that, and mainly because of the Lookout Sir podcast, because I quite like. They're mainly 40k, but they have got into Age of Sigmar and have been playing and talking about Age of Sigmar a lot more recently. Yeah, that took me a few rounds of them talking about it for me to get the wow, you can actually have a double. There will be a double turn at some point, and sometimes there'll be 2 of them.
Yeah, the rule set is incredibly similar to 40k most of the time, but for Spearhead, what they've done really simple things. They've stripped out the command point system, they've stripped out the magic system, and just put like a spell or 2 on the caster characters' cards. So, like, instead of having access to a full magic system, the Grey Seer has a thing that's like, roll 2d6. Did you roll above a 6? Okay, you can do d3 damage to a unit within 12 inches. Like, it just replaces those spells with something that's very easy to do every single turn. And yeah, it's very easy to just rock up down club with these small armies on this 30 by 22 board and get a couple of games in. It's the space where I think, and this is where we go back to War Machine, it's the space where I think that 2-player starter
I see.
War Machine could be. Now, obviously, I'd like to see, well, more in the vein of that 2-player starter for that to happen. So you've got like your character, your 1 small unit, your solo, and your warjack. But that's not a million miles away from some of those command cadre boxes.
No, not at all.
So, I mean, the balancing is way off. There's more to it than that, but it's not a million miles away. Anyway, I think.
So you're thinking from like tempting clubmates into more War Machine. Yeah,
The way that you get people to play games is you remove the barriers to entry.
Yeah,
if
very much.
If someone can buy a box, assemble it in an evening, and be playing, that barrier to entry is so low. And like that's what we need. I mean, it's what we've been talking about with paint all the time. The barrier to entry is just getting lower and lower and lower because there's so much great advice out there. But yeah, having that.
Yeah, and you can choose, and you can with painting especially. I think once you've, all right, so it's easy for me to talk about painting from having done it for 35 plus years, but you choose what level of painting you want, or I choose what level of painting I want to achieve with a model. I don't necessarily want to spend a whole month painting one model for an whole army, but at the same time, I also don't want to just put contrast paint over something and go done, walk away. I want somewhere in between. I want the contrast paint to be the start, and then choose how far up I want to take that scale. But there's so many different really cool painting guidance videos, as Russ was saying earlier on online. There's tons of material now. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It's no longer difficult like it used to be. It really isn't, and I don't think it needs to be difficult. It's not an elitist part of the hobby. It's just fun. Yeah, I've always found it fun.
Now, the more community we can get that shares information, tips, tricks, everything else, the better the game is, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree.
So, there we are. And on that, I suppose round off for the night. So you've been listening to Elite Cadre, the War Machine podcast that doesn't take itself too seriously. I've been Mike.
I've been Kurt. Where's everybody else?
Yeah. Dropping like flies.
Oh, I can't take the pace. Where's Alex when you need him? Just where are you? What's going on?
International man of mystery. He's somewhere.
He is. He's lost in his own beard. That's what I think happens.
Anyway, good night, folks.
Good night.
Right. That seems like a podcast which I'm going to have to edit at some point and doubtless hate myself all the way through, which is going to be glorious. I will try and
it's a bit more work than the last one, isn't it? Yeah.
I will try and boost the volume on this because I know a couple of people said it's a bit quiet. So yeah. To the people who've been listening on YouTube, thank you very much. We appreciate you listening in. We appreciate you talking in the chat, and it's good to see a couple more people joining in. And hopefully we'll see you again in, I'll say, about a month's time.
Yeah.
Because organising this thing is like organising a D&D evening. I mean, seriously. It takes a bit. Especially when we're having to deal with certain people. Well,
always put it in the diary and then everybody just walk around it.
In fairness, Nick does go from country to country quite a lot at this point for work, so he's a tough man to schedule around. I am less so. I'm at my desk either way, so yeah. Anyway, good night, folks on YouTube. We're going to stop stream here, and we'll see you again